The lights are bright, Doak Campbell Stadium is alive. Seminoles rise and fight to survive. Helmet gleam under that blazing sun. Florida State where champions run. Seminole sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Turf torn up under Seminole feet. The war chant pounds to the heart's own beat. Chop through the noise like a storm in the sky. 2025, we reach for the high. Seminole sideline 365.
All right. Oh, welcome back to Seminole Sideline 365. It is KB and the old man. We are here with potentially a special episode. We are potentially talking to Coach Antonio Cromartie tonight, but we know schedules change, things shift around, so we're hoping
holiday season.
Yeah, it's busy, so we're hoping he'll be joining us here in the first 10 minutes. If not, we got a couple things to talk about anyway. So
Hey, wait a minute. We got to talk about the holiday season. Look,
Here we go. There we go. Here
let me.
go.
Can I get this thing on with my
I don't know.
headphones?
I really don't know.
There we go.
Yeah.
Hey, I should have sent these to you.
No, you should not have. I'm fine. I'm more than fine.
This looks good like this.
I'm more than fine over here. But yeah, so we're hoping he'll be able to still join us tonight. If not, we'll make do and we'll try to reschedule that. But before we get into that, we do have some breaking news. What's going on, Jalen? Good to see you tonight. Good to see everyone that's able to join us tonight. We know, like the old man said,
Hectic.
the day before Christmas Eve, people are getting last minute shopping. They're getting groceries. They're got a lot of stuff going on. So we understand that things schedules can change. But Florida State did have some important news tonight in regards to their roster. If you haven't seen it, I think most of you probably have seen it, but it was kind of late breaking this afternoon. In terms of Brock Glenn is not going to be returning to Florida State. I think they use the word expected again. You're
expected.
Right.
So, we're going to find out January 2nd because it's that they have to be in by then. No, I guess you could go into the portal anytime during that time frame. So
his statement, his statement makes it sound like he is done with Florida State. So
yeah, I would think so. Yeah,
with a statement like that, and once again, I appreciate everything that Brock Glenn has done for the program. He stepped up in the ACC title game, and you could say kind of could have saved Mike Norvell's career at Florida State or extended it in terms of if Mike Norvell doesn't win the ACC title, then there is no playoff controversy. There is maybe no extension, but he came in as the third string quarterback in that game and did enough to win it for them and against Louisville and manage that game. And you got to be grateful for that. And he wasn't a kid that got in trouble off the field, social media. He wasn't, causing a controversy. He was just a professional. And, and he was there as a backup when needed. He always stepped in and made it. And I'm not going to say, his stats back, but he did what he needed to do. And that's what you're grateful for. And when he had to step up as a true freshman, as a third stringer, when everyone else was out, he did it and he won that game, and you got to be grateful for that. And so, Brock, we really do wish you the best. And I honestly do believe this is the right move for him, because we were talking about, when the portal, when the season was over at Florida State, would you have why would he stay? What the benefits for him staying? And once Kevin Sperry got the start over him this season, I mean, that was an indication to him that he had been lapped by a true freshman in the depth chart, and they're moving with the Gus Miles on offense that they like Sperry, over him, and I think he took that sign, but he didn't bitch about it, he didn't complain about it, he didn't make a scene about it. Like I said, he stayed professional, and I think he's got to do what's best for him in his career, because he's got 2 more years left to show what he's got. If he wants to go to the next level, or if he wants to play in Canada, if he wants to continue his football career, he's got to get game tape. He's got to get more game tape. So And I think this, and just look at the trajectory, like Luke Cromahawk, who had really no experience. He got to Mississippi State. Now he's not playing there still, but I mean, I think a guy like Brock could probably land somewhere decent, and even land into a starting position, maybe even at a smaller a G5 school. But what are your thoughts on this decision there?
Yeah, I think it's a good decision by Brock Glenn and his team of advisors. I don't think he was in the mix here. He was either going to be a second or third quarterback here. I think he's made a good decision. He's been a very true professional about it, how he's handled his business. He's he did what, like you said, he did what he's asked to do here. And I hate to lose him, but he didn't really have a chance to prove himself here. So I think the key is what level and what team does he go to next? If he picks the wrong program, he could also be a Luke Cromahawk, where you're not going to play. If he picks the right program, he could have opportunities to compete right away. I think those are the words that you want to hear from a staff wherever you're going. And let me could he go to Virginia Tech and potentially compete there? I don't know about that. Could he go to Old Dominion and compete there? Probably. Could he go to Coastal Carolina and possibly compete there? Yes. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So
yeah.
I think when some of these guys, I'd say most of these guys that are leaving, that are basically seeing they're not getting playing time here, they have to pick the right program. They can't go out looking for a big bag of money. That's not going to exist if you don't have much on tape, if you haven't had many reps in games worthy of evaluation. They could get mired down, swamped down programs. They're just not going to play. And I have to truly believe every player who's leaving wants to play ball someplace. Okay, and they can't look at that as a downgrade. It's about playing.
Yeah, absolutely. No, it all comes down to a business decision, right? At the end of the day, he didn't want to take sort of the route of like a, who is the guy I'm thinking of, like a Sean McGuire route, and be the proverbial backup for the team.
Right.
And I think too, business is changed. The business has changed since that time with Sean McGuire and Jameis Winston, and I thought Sean McGuire was great. Sean McGuire was great because he was able to step in multiple times when Jameis was out hurt, but he never became the starter. Right, he was just kind of the proverbial backup for the team,
right.
But he knew his role and he accepted that role, and he liked, whether he liked or he was just there for the education and to get that degree and the advanced degree and then move forward. He kind of knew what his pathway was and he stuck to it. And I think this is an indication obviously, that Brock Glenn wants more than just to be the proverbial backup, and he's not going to wait for his time or compete. He's kind of seen
he's had that time here to compete, exactly. And they obviously have not given him the nod to move, to stay on the team. And you talk about this in terms of quarterbacks. You can look up the years. I don't remember the years, but it was a great 2 quarterback tandem. And most coaches don't want that. They don't want this 2 quarterback. There's got to be 1 quarterback. Well, there's a guy named Wally Woodham. You can look up the years. Wally Woodham and Jimmy Jordan. Jimmy Jordan and Wally Woodham. If Wally was the starter and he wasn't having a good day, Coach Bowden would put in Jimmy Jordan.
Yep. And
they'd win the game. Then Jimmy Jordan might start because he had a good week of practice the next week.
Yep.
And if he wasn't really on fire, they'd put Wally Woodham back in. It was so uncharacteristic of how to run quarterback position, but they won games and they were competitors. It was just unbelievable. But the fans accepted it for what it was. They didn't boo one guy or the other. Bobby Bowden felt this is not his day. I'm going to go with the other guy. I don't even remember who was else on that depth chart behind those guys. I don't even remember any of them ever playing. But I thought that, Brock Glenn's not in that type of situation. He was forced into that role in the ACC championship game. He was pulled through that game with great defense. Yes. He didn't do anything to screw the game up. And he went home a champion. He won the game as the quarterback.
Absolutely.
Okay. But we wish him well. We do wish him well. He's done nothing to harm the university or do off the field stuff. He's been a true gentleman. We wish Brock all the luck in the world. Now, I wonder what that does to Sperry. What's his thinking right now?
Well, yeah, one thing I want to point out, because Norvell Central just announced this, or he put this announcement up, so he must have the source there, is that Tommy Castellanos is announcing for the NFL draft. So I would say that indicates that Tommy's further appeal, because we know it got denied his waiver, and I think his further appeal must have got denied there. So this indicates that for sure Tommy is not coming back, which I think is the best move for both sides of this coin here. That Tommy moves forward, and remember we heard the announcer say that, what was it, the game? It was the Florida game where the announcer said Tommy's going to make a hell of a quarterback in Canada. And
the guy said that. Yeah, I said that.
But and I think that is kind of true. If Tommy wants to be if he wants to continue to play football, I think that's probably his best route. And I think he could be, he could compete and maybe be a star in Canada, because we know it's limited in this country, in North America, really, to your opportunities.
But where else can you go?
Well, exactly. But
there's no overseas league. It's either here or in CFL, and we've had FSUs. If you look up Danny McManus, another great FSU quarterback, he set all kinds of records up in Canada and won championships up there. You look up Danny McManus, another quarterback during the Bowden era, who had a hell of a career up in Canada. I don't think it was a big money bag career, but he played a lot of ball up there. So 17 seasons. He put up all kind of numbers, and he put up decent, really good numbers. He was a hell of a player here at Florida State.
Yeah. So yeah, so we know Tommy's out now, and I think, we'll see what happens to him. I wish him the best, and obviously I think he gave his heart to it. But back to your point on Kevin Sperry and what does that mean to him? You look at the depth chart here from this past season. Tommy's gone, Brock's gone. You're left with Kevin Sperry, who will be a redshirt freshman, because they kept his eligibility, which now looks like a smart move. It looks like a smart move.
I think they won. I think that was designed. Yep.
Jalen King is gone. He's entering the portal. So you've lost 3 quarterbacks. Michael Grant, is walk on, right? And then you added Jaden O'Neal from the portal, from the high school ranks. From the high school ranks.
Yeah.
So and Jaden O'Neal, I don't think is a guy that's going to be able to come in. You're not expecting him to come in and play right away. So I think this puts you into a decision-making time. Is, once again, do you go that youth development movement that we've talked about and say, Kevin Sperry, we're giving you the keys. You better develop, work your ass off in the offseason, because you're lining up. We're handing this thing off to you, this program, and that could be Mike Norvell's, his future in Kevin Sperry's hands. Or does Mike Norvell say, no, I'm going to go spend $3 million on Byron Brown
I don't think Mike Norvell has the checkbook.
Yeah. Well, I think he has influence, though.
I think there's a design strategy that none of us know about, how they're going to approach 2026. You've walked the turf on that a little bit about what's probably going to happen. I don't think Mike Norvell has an unlimited checkbook to do what he wants. I think he's going to have to justify any amount of spending over a certain set amount. Pick any amount you want. $500,000 each per player. I think there's going to be other scrutiny here, because he just doesn't have the record to support him having a fluffy checkbook with multiple ink pens to fill out checks. I just don't believe that. Yeah. I don't know that. Nobody's told me that, but I don't believe that's the case. Do you?
No, I don't think that's the case, but I think he has to. Unless he really is a sitting lame duck coach, I have to believe he has some influence on on what's going on right now, right?
I think he's on a short leash. They've stripped away certain powers, maybe of spending, and the only way he can get some of that back is by winning a lot of football games next season. And, any coach, average coach at Florida State, I shouldn't say average because, if you recruit averagely, you could lose a lot of games. But you should be able to win 6 games. You've got 2 cream puffs again, so you should win 4 football games in your conference. If you can't do that, you shouldn't be coaching at this national brand, which we cannot abuse.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. But like I said, it does set up a decision. Is that no, it doesn't set up a decision. I think regardless, you stick, you down to one quarterback with any experience. Kevin Sperry has very limited experience, under 4 games and a couple of cleanup games essentially. But you have him. That's really it. You're going to have to go to the portal, right? Regardless. But
that's a statement they're going. That's the statement. When Brock Glenn posted his remarks, that was the statement. They are going to go to the portal for a transfer. No doubt.
But it's just, what is that allotment? What is that allotment, value that you're going to put on it? Are you going to go after a tier 1 starter, or are you going to go after a tier 2 backup? That is what we don't know yet. It is what slot value are they giving to that position now? Do they trust Kevin Sperry as the starter, or are they going to have to go and spend because they don't see Kevin Sperry as the starter?
He is not going to be the starter, and they're going to go to the portal. The only reason they wouldn't take a portal quarterback, KB, the only reason is they can't get the guy they want, and they can't get him for the price they want. There is a limit. There's a cap, and but I think they're going all in to get a quarterback. That's their number 1 need on their draft board.
A starting quarterback. Because like I said, I think they'll get a quarterback regardless. I think they'll get a quarterback regardless. They need to. They need depth in the room. But you're saying they're going to assign the value of a starting quarterback in the portal. $2-3 million. $2-3 million.
Yes. I believe that's where they're going to spend some of that money that they save. Maybe the quarterback's coach or whatever.
And that goes to what we talked about yesterday. Byron Brown being, I think, what I said, the number 1 target for this offense. But you're going to have to spend that tier 1 money for him.
Byron Brown. Yeah. It looks like he is going to get a lot of interest from his old coach at Auburn now. I think his old coach, that's been all over the media. I think they're going to try to swing a deal there. He knows the coach. If he likes the coach, you don't think he's going to end up there?
But we talked about this last night.
I know.
Deuce Knight being there, they're not going to be able to keep both those guys. So, it's either you're getting a 1-year rental of Brown, and you lose Deuce Knight for 4 years. You're not going to be able to keep both guys because Deuce Knight already sat out as a highly talented freshman, sat out for the whole year. So I don't think you keep both of them.
You don't hear that argument much across the media right now about the argument you're making right there. You don't hear that. I think
they should be, because there's no way that kid's going to sit again for Byron Brown to come in and take his spot again. And so, and that may be something that Florida State does monitor, because I think Deuce Knight would be an interesting prospect. But once again, he'd be inexperienced with a high ceiling of multiple years, because he's 6'4", 217. We talked about it a little bit yesterday. Number 6 quarterback in his class, top 50 nationally. Very highly evaluated. I mean, so yeah. Auburn could be moving some dominoes for Florida State here. Whether and we don't know. Are the Auburn rumors something from Byron Brown's agent that they're putting out there to raise his value? Maybe.
Of course.
We don't know that. So we don't know the games that are being played here. But we know Brown's going to be a highly sought after quarterback. He's the top 5 in the transfer portal right now in terms of quarterback value. So,
well, would you agree? You would agree with me that Florida State's number 1 need is at quarterback, right? I mean,
well, it depends how you measure need, but I yes, it is top 2 positions, top 3 positions of that need. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I think again, we're not on the inside room there with all the heads trying to set what the strategy is. We have no idea what it is. No one else in FSU media has any idea what it is. But we're going to learn a lot about that strategy come January the 2nd through the 16th of January, is how hard do they go after people in the portal? Who do they come up with and at what positions do they get these guys? How much experience do they have? The more experience a guy has, obviously, the more money you're going to have to shell out, because that experience has to be bought without a doubt. So we're going to learn a lot in January about what their strategy really is.
You know what's interesting though, when you were talking about, we talked about portal strategy, and the value, and how big the GM position, which we still don't have any new information on the GM search and what's going on there, which I think is a little weird. But you brought up Danny McManus and the CFL. Don't you think it's kind of weird that you don't see more guys being recruited from the CFL to come? Because CFL, I feel like, evaluates a lot of U.S. talent to bring into Canada to play. Don't you think it's kind of weird that colleges don't look at CFL coaches or admin personnel to come into universities and come into more analysts or those types of roles versus like relying on the NFL or high school?
Yeah, I don't know the rules of CFL in terms of rosters, if they can only have so many Americans on there. There's high schools in Canada that play football.
Yeah,
I mean, and I've never heard of this guy play. Maybe I have. That a guy has played high school football in Canada and come down, or just like we're getting guys from overseas now.
That's not what I mean. I mean,
no, I understand what you're saying. I'm getting there.
Yeah.
If you look on the web there, if you're doing that, look up Kurt Warner. Okay, yeah. I believe it was Kurt Warner who had he had a struggling career in the NFL, or didn't make it in the NFL. Went to Canada, pushed up some really good numbers. Yep. Got the attraction, came back down to the States with the Rams, I think it was, and ended up winning the Super Bowl. His son played quarterback at the University of Florida or Miami, one of those two.
No, you're right. Yeah, I don't think he actually did play in Canada. I think he was in arena football.
Who, Warner?
He was in arena football.
Oh, he didn't play. There was another guy. There was another guy then who was up in Canada and came down to the NFL, had a very good career. I can't remember his name. This was prior to 1990, I'm sure.
Kurt Warner was a big arena guy. I don't think he was big in the Arena Football League, and then went from Northern Iowa to the Arena Football League. But I don't think he played in Canada. But yeah, if someone knows who, he stated that he wanted to play in the CFL at some point. But
look up the guy who was in Canada, and he then came down and had a nice career in the NFL. And I think he won a Super Bowl, the guy I'm thinking about. And he played, I thought it was Kurt Warner, but maybe there's another guy.
It's not. No? Yeah, I don't. If someone in the chat knows who it is, let us know.
I thought there was a Canadian, Yeah. Okay. But yeah, I don't know why. I think Tommy, let's say Tommy's going to be an undrafted free agent. If that, he's going to be undrafted free agent. They're going to go in. He's going to get used as cannon fodder, pretty much practicing. And then, unless he does something really dynamic, which he could make the practice squad. And or if he doesn't, he gets cut. He could go to Canada. He could go to Canada and continue playing. But the money difference is just huge. There's a huge money difference, a money gap there. But
that's where you got to determine, do you love playing the game enough to continue that career for another
You're right.
5 years, making 200, 200, 150, which is still good money, but you're that abuse to your body, your body, right? And it's being away from your family, traveling, stuff like that. Do you want to hit a normal career like most of us have, or do you want to continue playing the game you love and putting your body on the line every single week for maybe not as much as you thought you would make? That's right. Where you have to determine if that's the Canadian transition for you. But
it'd be like you giving up your career in the field you're in and saying, you know what, I've always loved coaching basketball, and I just want to go coach basketball down at the high school level and teach school. Yeah, it's a huge money difference, So I'd like to look up. I'll look it up sometime. How many American college kids playing football here go up after? Let's say, I think the average college football player is going to try to stay in college and play ball as long as he can. 5 years. In fact, I told you there's a lawsuit going on now that the 5th year should be granted the JUCO now, any years you play in JUCO, they don't count against your 4 years now. Did you know that?
Yeah, I heard
They
about
do
that.
not count. Again, that was through another lawsuit, I believe. So if a kid could possibly play 1 or 2 years JUCO, come in and play 4 to 5 years D1, and have several years here, because most of them are not going to make it at the NFL level, even though they're trying. So they're going to try to get as much money as they can out of the 5 to 6 years they can get in college ball. I don't blame them for doing it. I don't blame them. And I don't blame college kids for opting out of irrelevant games that don't count for anything. Yeah. I don't. I said that
I forgot bowl games are going on right now. I mean, there's a bowl game going on right. I haven't watched
one
of these games.
Toledo. I don't watch any of those games.
Southern Miss is playing Western Kentucky right now. But once again, some of these kids are trying to get more tape. So I'm not against that.
Well, that's how we got Lavelle, the linebacker. We saw him. Isn't his name Lavelle?
Caleb Lavelle.
We saw him, and he had a great game in the bowl game UNC was in. We said, "Oh, let's go get that guy." He came in. He's been injured most of the year. His twin brother's on the team now, I think, or not twin, but his brother. Yeah, his brother's on the team. I don't even know where he came from, and they're starting to rattle the drums. We're a little disappointed here on this pick. So, it's crazy. Now, if you could identify, I would have scouts looking at these games, right? Wouldn't you?
I mean, yeah, to look at under the radar talent.
Because we're now shopping, because we don't have a lot of money. We're now shopping at the Walmart clearance sale, which Walmart doesn't have clearance sales, but we're shopping that way now. So we should be looking across any of those games to see if there's somebody there that we can evaluate and say, I think that guy, I think we could bring him in for an excellent price, and he can do something for us.
Yeah, and to that point, there was something interesting. I wanted to find it. There was a good article that came out, and it was talking about. It was with an athletic director, and they were talking about kind of the evaluation period, and it was an AD from like TCU and one from a smaller G5 school. And they're discussing, if I can, here's the article. Now I'll discuss the key points from it. But I thought it was interesting. And I think it's some of the deficiencies that maybe have hurt Florida State in the past. But this article here, I'll share. But it's, they interviewed the personnel director at the TCU and went through this interview process. Like, what do they go through? Like, what does the process look like? Of you evaluating, kind of putting together a team year to year and rebuilding and replacing at a school like this. And the things that stood out from something like this in terms of is that they use the term like constant self-scouting. Like that preparation process is months before the January 2nd window. Like they're evaluating their own roster, seeing who's progressing and who might leave. So they're already like in week 3, they're evaluating like who's progressed from week 1 to week 4, and who are the players who, if they're not on the field, who may leave. And so really self-scouting, like dictating like, okay, if this person leaves us in 6 more weeks, we need to start looking and evaluating, that hole in the linebacker position or in the running back room or the quarterback room. And then they also talked about things like continuous advanced scouting. They'll scout opponents, but they'll also scout smaller schools throughout the season, like you talked about, and have a short list of those players when the portal ends open. So they'll be, like you said, watching these smaller teams, not just in bowl season, but throughout the season. So they may go check out Southern Miss, or may go check out, other Sun Belt teams or things across the country and shortlist those guys, kind of like they did, we did with like Braden Fisk or when he stood out on tape, things like that, and have a short list of the guys so that when the portal opens, they can go and immediately send that message to that guy, unless, there's back channels open. And he also talked about now with the single transfer window, there's so much pressure to it. There's no more safety net of watching the young players develop in the spring practice window, but before deciding if you're going to bring in a transfer for them. You now have one window to either assign a transfer or get a guy out or bring in his replacement. There's no more like that double window safety net anymore. So now the evaluation process is even more critical than it was before. And if you don't have guys that can accurately do that, like Florida State, you're even in more trouble. And the
well,
last
I think that's good, and I've talked about this before, and I'm not sure you totally bought into it. I think, it seems like Florida State is watching what everybody else does instead of leading. There's a difference. You're either leading or you're following. I feel like we're in a following type of pattern. We're not sure what the cap is on the money, so call up the NCAA, whoever's running the circus these days, and say, what is the rule? Okay? How hard is that shit? If you need clarification, get on your jet that you guys bought, with athletic department, and fly out there and talk to the man who's running this thing. There is either a hard cap or there isn't. It can't be that hard to figure out. It really frustrates me. Now, back to scouting. We have to start getting ahead of this scouting thing. I agree with what they're saying. Scouting, evaluation, player hiring or retention, all of those, and then development by coaches is all part of the process now going forward. And if you make mistakes, it's going to cost you a lot of money. I believe that they should put scouts out across the country, okay? Or hire people that already live in Florida. Take me. Let's say I've done a lot of coaching. I'm a little bit older now. I don't want the grind of daily football. They contract with me. I'm not an employee. They contract with me as an independent contractor. They say, we want you to go look at the following people. They could have 3 or 4 regions in Florida, right? Yeah. South, Central, North, and Panhandle. And you're in charge of looking at all these schools, going by, talking to the coach. I'm right here in the state. You don't have to get on your jets and fly everywhere until we say, you got to go see this guy. Yeah. And then I'm accountable for statistics on what happens, right, as a scout. And I'll give you an example. It's kind of off the wall. I was once running around a track many years ago, just trying to stay in shape a little bit. And here's a bunch of younger people, men and women, running. And there was a really stocky built guy running with him. And I said, what are you guys doing? He goes, I'm a Marine recruiter. These are my recruits. I don't get any credit for these recruits unless they pass their physical fitness test day one. Yep. That's a little example of accountability. His performance reports are based on how many recruits he gets that qualify and get into the program. If they drop out, he gets no credit. If we put scouts in the key areas, right? What areas do we recruit? We recruit Florida. We recruit Georgia. We recruit up and down the East Coast. We have some out in California. There's people who will do some of this legwork for you for very small independent contractor prices. And could be trained in what you want done, how you want it recorded, and so on. Try something different to get this program out of the mire that we're in. We're going to have to think differently. If we just follow everybody else, we're going to get lost in the dust.
Yep. No, I think that's well said. And I totally agree with you on all those points.
I think, you know why? Let me add this. I think what they're doing, KB, they're relying on these services. There's a lot of these recruiting services and star services, and there's statistical numbers we attach. I'm not saying those are bad. No, I'm not saying they're bad. But KB, it comes down to the person doing the grading too, right? I don't know how they do it.
I don't know. I don't think they're just looking at stars and stuff like that. That's more of the casual fan stuff like that.
But I don't want to see them looking at these little video clips of some guy that's 6'5" lineman we're looking at. He weighs 340 pounds and he's pushing a guy that's half his size in a division he shouldn't be playing in at the high school level. And he pushes a guy almost into the bleachers. We go, oh man, look at that guy. That's bullshit.
But
you need to look at how do they do against quality high school teams.
Yeah, and that's where there's got to be you got to have the people willing to travel, because data and AI can aggregate a bunch of data points for you. They can, tell you how many times this guy's pancake block a guy and across the season, and how many attempts, like PFF does. You can have all those data points. It can create a model for you, can tell you the likelihood that this guy turns into the next starter. They have these programs. Coaches will have these types of recruiting programs. They can kind of shortlist guys, stuff like that. But to your point, it's more impactful when you can see a guy live, and what staffs are willing to go and look at a guy, or watch the full tape and see him in person, see how he actually plays the game versus just looking at data points. And that takes more time than just looking at a spreadsheet of numbers and metrics and saying, okay, who are the guys that stand out to me, and watching a couple of clips of each game. And that's why I think some of these staffs have ballooned, because they want to do more self-scouting versus just looking at what the AI or the data aggregation is telling them.
And how much time to our coaches that already have players to develop and stay with and everything have to jump on airplanes, fly down to a city to watch a kid? I get that. But the old school methodology of doing this, I think, until you get preliminary data, eyes on, by a scout in that area who can pass reports up, that's his job, to pass. Major League Baseball does this. The NFL does this, okay, at the higher level. Well, you think the head coaches, I'm just saying, I know that's a different thing.
The coaches do have regional.
I know, but they're having to fly out of Tallahassee to go down and see this. That should only be done in the final, you can stay in communication with a kid and just train him on the new system. This is our regional scout. He's down there to look at everybody and evaluate people. And then when you start to build relationships, you start bringing that coach in, because he has a lot of responsibilities up there too. So I think the old style of evaluation and scouting is dying. And if we stay in that, we're gonna miss out. We're gonna miss out.
Well, unfortunately, I think Florida State's more in the kind of TCU way of recruiting right now, because they have to go and they have to identify the diamonds in the rough at the smaller programs when they're available to enter the portal right now, because we're not going to be able to go for and land these 5-star guys that are recruiting against Georgia and Ohio State and Texas and stuff like that right now. We can't win those battles with the program the way it is right now. We can't even retain some of our top talent that we've recruited from the high school, so far right now. We've already talked about it at a ton. So right now, there does need to be a shift in the way that we recruit and we evaluate. But I think there has to be some more grassroots changes in terms of how they're finding talent, because it's not going to come from the top programs. It's not going to come from the top schools. They're going to have to hit some home runs from some of these areas that aren't being looked at by the top programs. But you got to have, like you said, the right scouts, the right people out there, whether it's however you set that structure up. You have to have eyes on the right kids, and you have to be lucky enough that a lot of other programs aren't looking at them either, because you're not going to win a lot of those elite recruiting battles right now. It's just not
let me throw out an example, okay? And it appears that our guest that we had hoped would be here, and that is Mr. Cromartie, is not available tonight, and we apologize to our loyal viewers and fans and anybody else who came into the program to hear that interview. We will hope to do that in the new year, but we have not heard a word from Mr. Cromartie at this point. So we hope he's safe. We hope whatever the priority was, it was worthy of his time. But we invite a lot of people onto this program in the future, and we hope he will come and join us. Now, let me use him as an example. He's not a coach on any football team that I'm aware of right now, high school or college. Now, that doesn't mean he's not doing something with those. I just don't know about it, okay? And I was hoping to ask him that tonight. What is he doing with his time? This is obviously a well-known FSU legend of DBU. When we don't use that term much anymore, do we? We used to say DBU here at Florida State. And when I say DBU, we had so many elite DBs in our system. And let me just give you a few names as I continue with this story of where I'm going. The very first, let me ask you this, and I'll ask fans, and I bet you fans don't know. Who was the first ever FSU superstar defensive back at Florida State in the football program? And this is undisputed. The first. And let's see if anybody's looking. Okay, I'm not going to wait. And I watched him play. Okay. His name is J.T. J.T. Thomas. J.T. Thomas. Remember that name out there, folks. He played at Florida State from 1970 to 1972. I was enrolled there from 1970 to 1974. He got out before the 1973 season, which was 0-11, prior to Bobby Bowden. Okay? Yep. He was the first ever first-round NFL draft pick as a defensive back, and probably off of Florida State. First round, first ever, number 24 by the Pittsburgh Steelers in 1970 draft. He was the cornerstone of the legendary steel curtain defense. If you go to Pittsburgh and you don't know what the hell that is, don't go into any bars. It's a sports bar. Okay? In the 1970s, with the dominant Steelers, he's got 4 Super Bowl rings. 4 of them. And he was All-Pro as well in the Pro Bowl of 1976. And he never changed teams. He served his entire career, which was prior to free agency, with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He is a legend at Florida State. Now, here's some more quickly. Deion Sanders. Everybody's heard of him. Terrell Buckley. Jalen Ramsey. Bobby Butler. Leroy Butler. Leroy Butler was more of a safety, okay, but I put him on the list. And remember, Leroy Butler took the fake punt against Clemson? Did you ever see that game?
Yeah.
And he ran all. I about crap my pants. And it was unbelievable. You talk about a trick play. That was unbelievable. Xavier Rhodes, Samari Rolle, and others. Some people say Greg Reed. I think Greg Reed was a great player, but I'm not sure I'd put him on that list. But there were others that I don't have on the list. We were called DBU. We don't have those guys anymore. And these guys, in most of their time, they didn't even go through this star system where you go to camps and get stars. These were all recruited visually by their character and by their play, and so on and so on and so on. And I didn't even get into the safety positions of some people we've had. Okay?
Yeah.
We're not even close to that now. In fact, Jabril Rawls, who was probably our best cornerback, just is going into the portal.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like you
said. And all of these guys were developed under Mickey Andrews. Most of these guys, not J.T. Thomas, but most of these guys were developed under Mickey Andrews' defense.
Mm-hmm. That's true.
Okay, now back to my story. So we have our potential guest, maybe in the future, Mr. Cromartie, and I think he's down in South Florida someplace. He's down living there, working down there, or doing something down there. Mr. Cromartie could get an independent contractor, let's say, contract from Florida State to help evaluate talent down there. Mm-hmm. Cromartie has an unbelievable resume of skills and experience. And why couldn't you put guys like this around the country on contracts to assist in the recruitment? I can't imagine it's illegal from the NCAA standpoint. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just throwing out creative measures. I think he works with athletes now. I don't know if they're pro athletes or they're college athletes or high school athletes. I'm sure it may be a variety. But Antonio Cromartie, Coach Crow as he's known, has a lot of experience. Okay, he was in the league 10 to 11 years, 4 different teams. He was next to who was that? Revis Island. They locked down people for the Jets. I mean, so there's a long resume there, which we're going to go through a little bit if he was here tonight. But he's not here. We wish him well, and we hope everything's going well. But my point is, we've got to get scouts out around the country to rebuild this program properly.
Yep. Yeah, and on that note, I'll just say Florida State did land 4 Pro Bowlers, on the for the NFL this season, which, we got to get back to landing those guys. Jalen Ramsey, Derwin James, Jared Verse, and Brian Burns are those 4.
Yeah.
But like you said, defensive back wise, we don't have a Jalen Ramsey. We don't have a Derwin James. We haven't seen, Jerry Jones is having a good year, but, he was on the 2023 team, right? We need to get back to having freak athletes like Derwin James and Jalen Ramsey and Jared Verse and Brian Burns and guys like that, right? Freaks in the trenches like Brian Burns, Jared Verse, and then freaks in the defensive backfield like Jalen Ramsey and Derwin. Like those guys can flip the field in one play. Those guys can flip the game in one play.
These were elite talent coming out of high school. All these guys were high school guys, and they were fully developed by Bobby Bowden's staff.
Okay, not the guys I just mentioned.
No, not those guys. Not those.
That's what I'm talking about.
But a lot of the guys I mentioned, they were the legitimate old school. Find them, recruit them, evaluate them, and then train them up and send them out there.
Yep. So yeah, I mean, we got a lot of work to do, and it'll continue to flow. But yeah, the last thing I'll say is, the last thing I want to share is what do you think of something like this? I'm going to play a little clip from a recent podcast Mike Norvell was on with Jordan Travis in his Take Two podcast. I want to play this for you and see what you have to think about it.
Obviously, after a rough year, how are you doing?
I'm good. It's disappointed but not defeated. The results were not what we wanted. Ultimately, it's about what you learn through them. It's about what you're willing to do and where you're willing to go to make it better. You have to be consistently focused on trying to go improve, trying to go take the steps that are necessary to get this program back to championship caliber. I love who I get to work with. I love who I get to impact. I never said that the journey was going to be easy. And we've seen the highest of highs and we've experienced some of the lowest of lows. But the opportunity is still there.
Obviously, after
So we watched that from Jordan Travis Take Two podcast. Obviously, there's a bunch of clips that are floating around right now as he was just on that. What do you take away from Mike Norvell's message, and is there anything to take away from what he's saying? Or
I think that's it right there. There's nothing. He uses the same language. If you go back and play post-game pressers or the next presser on the Monday following, it's the same words. You can write them down week after week after week after week.
Yeah.
That's all that, I hate to say it again because I'm saying the same words. It's all the Coach Speak 101 course. He's almost delusional in terms of it's all going to magically just turn around, and his record does not indicate that. When you take a hard look at the record, besides the 13-1 season, now everybody says 13-0, it's actually 13-1 with the bowl game against Georgia. As much as we hate to bring that shit up, okay, and I was never for playing the game. I was for players opting out, and I was for not playing it at all. But he says the same words, KB, so I don't take anything out of what he said there. I don't find it surprising. I don't see it as dramatic. What are people reacting to?
Yeah, here's the last thing I'm going to play because this really triggered some people too.
What's one quick message you want every Florida State fan listening to know about our Florida State Seminoles moving forward?
Well, I mean, it's coming. It's been a challenging last couple of years, and I hate it for every Florida State fan. I mean, just for the challenges that we've had to go through, the disappointments, because there's been disappointing results. But I mean, this is a team, this is a culture that's built on the right values with the right people, and we're going to work every single day to represent this program the way it deserves to. And we know what it looks like, we know what it takes. Through all that we've had to go through, I mean, it's gonna be one hell of a story to tell, and I'm ready. I'm ready to go be a part of it and to be able to put that story on display.
I mean,
it's the same thing you hear from politicians. They say the same words over and over. I could give that speech now. I've heard it so many times, and you could too. You know what I'm saying. We could give that same speech, and it's like this. What? Let's hope he changes his look. Was that a bad haircut? Or
no,
I don't want to get on that.
Why
it's
are
off.
you talking about that? Who gives a shit?
It's off message, but he looks different. He's got a different goatee. I mean,
okay, no, that doesn't matter. The message
yeah.
about we have the right people. Well, you just got rid of all your half of your coaches.
They're all leaving. All your players are. Yeah,
most of your players are leaving. We've had no scheduled visits. We have we don't know of any scheduled visits from grad transfers. Doesn't look like we're getting momentum potentially for we're not getting any good buzz out there. Key players are potentially leaving us. It doesn't. We have no news on Deuce Robinson retention. I mean, Duke just locked up their quarterback, their star quarterback, and their star receiver, 1,000-yard receiver.
There you go.
They've already locked those guys in.
There you go.
Mike, I can't believe the message of we have the right guys, we have the right people. It's coming. It hasn't come for 2 years. And that's why it's just it's in. He's got. Well, it's coming out that's not genuine, but he's got to know it's.
Oh, he's way past that, KB. He's way past being not genuine. People don't buy it. Right there, a Dagby, empty, meaningless words because they're used over and over and over again. You can get away with that as long as you're winning games, It's just but you can't get away with it when the results aren't being produced, right? Yeah. You can't do it. So I can't. I'll be honest with you, and I go across a lot of social media. You know that. I can't even listen to his pressers anymore. I mean, I'll listen to him to see if there's something so horrendous I can send it out to our fans. Now, his press conferences are so different than Luke Lauk's basketball ones. And I don't know if you've seen any of those. I tell the fans here, our fans and loyal listeners, go listen to some Luke Lauk's ones after they lose. Even the winning ones. He'll say, we didn't do this right. We didn't do that right. These guys better get their butts out of their, heads out of their butts. He lays it on them. He's very realistic, and I like listening to him. That's what people want to. People want to know that you don't treat them like imbeciles. Yeah. That's Mike's style. That is Mike's style. He's Mr. Positive, totally positive, and that is a philosophy of coaching. Total positivity. That's one method. But he doesn't. He could get angry and not call people out. But if you start challenging him with any harder questions, most of them are softball questions in these press conferences. If you challenge him a little bit, he almost gets a little ticked off because he's not used to being challenged in any of this. Yeah. He pulls these little gags of, and it's just not working. It's not working. Mike, when you're paying people $1 million to play football, you need to call them out a little bit more and hold them accountable more because you're not doing it and it's not working, right?
I agree.
And and the teammates who aren't making that kind of money need to stand up as leadership roles in the locker room and get on some of these people. They know who's making the money.
Yep, I agree.
So that's my take. It's just not working. I believe in my heart. I think, again, Mike's a nice guy. He's just not a great coach, and he won't survive the 2026 season.
He's not. And while we continue to struggle, Miami continues to build their trenches out.
There you go.
To to land the 5-star plus a one offensive tackle, and this is why they continue to get better and better because they continue to land monsters in the trenches, and we don't. And so, all for delaying this decision by another year, it's just going to put us another year behind. And until we get elite recruiters who can recruit elite high school talent like this, again, it's going to be a long road, guys. So yeah, I hate to end it on that note, but hopefully good Christmas is coming. So let's celebrate that. Let's celebrate. Have a good time there.
Wait a minute, I'll put on my ears.
Hopefully some good things will come, and on January 2nd we'll get some good momentum. But yeah, I hate to end it on that note. I hate to end it on Glenn going into the portal, but we don't think there's gonna be a ton of good news this year. But we'll make it through it. We'll hopefully get some good news. Hopefully we'll recruit some good kids out of the portal. They can put together a roster that's competitive, but I know some people don't even want a competitive roster because they want like Norvell gone. But we'll see what happens, guys.
What's hard is what's very frustrating, KB, is just like all our loyal fans here, and we hope if you're not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. It doesn't cost you a dime. Is nobody knows what's going on inside. There are no requested interviews. We send out requests. Sometimes I think we've learned a little bit. Our lesson is when you say you're going to be live with somebody, they may not show up. There may be something that prevents it. Who knows, but we try our best to bring the news. We try on discussion, and we try to bring some people in. And we're going to try even harder in 2026. But we may record those in the future, because then you're not disappointed. I'm a little disappointed. I had all kind of notes and questions for Mr. Cremati, and
okay.
We'll see. But the bottom line is nobody has any insider information. Would you agree with that statement?
No, I don't think
there are no great sources, even though some sites will say, yeah, our sources close to the program tell us. I have a hard time with that. And most of it's not substantive.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything substantial going on. I don't think there's anything significant.
No, I'm talking about what is the strategy moving forward. Yeah, I wish Alford would.
I don't think there is one. So I don't think there's anything to find out.
Listen, would it be wrong for Alford to come out and say, here's our strategy moving forward to the fan base?
No, I think you.
Or do they have to keep their war plan secret? Couldn't he say, listen, this is how we're going to rebuild this program. We're going to go hard in on high school. We're going to play a lot of young guys that have been here 1 or 2 years, haven't had a lot of reps, and we're going to take our bumps where we take them. But that's how we're going to build, because now you can't even get that many good quarterbacks coming in because we're always going to the portal. Like a lot of teams.
I told you. No. I showed you that interview with the AD.
No, I know.
Personnel at TCU. They know what their strategy is. I mean, you could give that same exact strategy, but and how they're going to evaluate talent, the retention versus replacement. Yeah. I mean, I think they could be clear about something like that. You don't have to give away every little detail, but you could say this is how we're going to build the program back up. Without giving every little thing away, but it's just unclear how they are deciding what they're deciding to do, how they're going to rebuild this thing.
I just don't think it should be a secret. Would you agree? Or should it be a secret?
I don't know. No.
Well, I think that's where the frustration for the fans are. No, I understand that, but we're not on every day 24/7. I'm just saying that's the fans' frustration is they have no clue. But we're going to find out in the first 2 weeks of the portal, and by the end of the 16th of January, we're going to know exactly who's on the roster and who isn't. And then the debate is really going to start.
For sure. All right, with that, I think we're going to wrap it up there. So thank you guys for dropping by. We really appreciate the support, the comments, the discussion. We went through more than I thought tonight, and like the old man said, we'll look to reschedule that interview with Crow if he's available.
And I personally apologize to our fans for us not, for our guests not showing up. And in the future, we may have to adjust some of our plans.
Yeah,
so,
but I think we had a good discussion on
the
transfers and stuff like that. So we appreciate you all still coming by. We apologize for that, and yeah, we'll have further discussions next week and coming up, obviously, with all the transfer portal stuff in the January 2nd window. So thank you all for coming by. We appreciate it.
And listen,
have a safe holiday, y'all. Drive safe. Have fun with family or by yourself, whatever you guys are doing, however you celebrate. We appreciate you. And as always, go Noles. Take care, everyone. Stay safe. Enjoy your holiday. Enjoy your break. We'll see you soon. And take care of everyone.
Seminole sideline 365. Feel the roar, we're coming alive. Garnet and gold in the battle we thrive. This is our house where legends arrive. Every yard we take.